You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast. We're previewing IPL 22, Group B. And in this little segment, we'll be talking about Royal Challengers Bangalore, the men formerly known as Kohli's men. Now, whose men are they? We'll be finding out. Ross is going to tell us. But first, quick reminder, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. SeriousCricket.co.uk. Use the code TCP22 for 10% off cricket equipment. You'll hear that advert a few more times if you're listening to the audio section. So
enjoy.
Go and buy the thing now, and you can skip it in the future. And on patreon.com/thecricketpod, we'll be setting up an IPL fantasy league for playing along with us. Someone's already challenged me to a game of chess, actually.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, has challenged me to a game of chess. So if you want to challenge me at chess, you can also sign up to Patreon, do that.
We should could you live stream it? We should Twitch it. Can you do something like that?
I was going to do asynchronatic, so it's like it would be a very long live stream without much happening. And there's other stuff as well. It's not just the opportunity to play me at chess. There's extra shows and so on. We're planning.
Yeah. You can play Max at Age of Empires.
Oh, I tell you what, anyone wants a game of Age of Empires, sign up to Patreon for 2 months and we'll take you on.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about Royal Challengers Bangalore. So, yeah, previously Kohli's men, but he has abdicated from his throne, and Faf du Plessis has been given the reins. So, the South African Faf, recent champion with CSK, bought for a pretty inflated 7 crore. Joined as their captain. Sanjay Banga is their coach. Kit review. Well, the kit is black dipped into blood red with specks of gold, with a kind of oriental feel, like ancient oriental kind of feel. It's a good kit, gents. But
they consistently bring good kit game to the. They don't bring a lot of other good things, but they consistently.
They bring comedy.
They do bring comedy, actually. I also like, have you seen their green alternate shirt? I think they play in it once a year, because obviously you might be getting onto this in a minute, but they're a very green cricket club, aren't they? Because of the stadium. But it's good stuff. RCB kit winners in the kit lottery, in my opinion.
Fair enough. So on Group A, and the people who've listened to this or on the other shows, we mentioned Winston Churchill, and I said I had a fact about Winston Churchill. And so Winston Churchill was a member of the Bangalore club, which was kind of an elite level club in the 1900s. Apparently, Churchill owed the club a huge amount of money that he never paid off. So, you know how Boris Johnson likes to be like Winston Churchill? I can see like the similarities. Interesting, though, that when I was looking at this fact, the guy signed off with, "We guess that's another thing to add to the list of the things the British took from us and never returned." On a tourism blog.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it got a point.
Yeah, big time.
Don't argue with it.
I've been to the British Museum, or as we like to call it, the Vault.
Yeah, look at all this stuff that these wankers stole. But anyway,
good start though, Ross. I like that IPL podcast. Get some colonial history in.
Yeah, well, that's the bit
set everyone at ease.
You have to acknowledge the past. So when it comes to top players, though, let's talk about the big show. The big show in town is Glenn Maxwell. He was absolutely abysmal at the Punjab Kings. Last year for RCB, he found his home. He was absolutely brilliant, both with ball and with bat. He offers just so much, and it's quite a difficult skill set to find, right? The kind of batting all-rounder who is just as flexible as possible, really. Great fielder, good
good at yoga.
Really good at yoga.
You can do that switch hit thing, can't he?
Yeah. Mid-Lord,
hip.
He's got elastic wrists, doesn't he? Elastic wrists. They've also signed Sri Lankan spinner Hasaranga. They could have retained him, but they decided not to and paid more money for him. But mystery spinner, he should have a good IPL. Fafa's skipper opening up, obviously delivered for CSK last year, much to Jack's annoyance. I think you thought it was going to be a bust.
Not annoying. I still don't think it's very good.
Can he continue is kind of a big question, right? And what batting order they'll kind of go with. But they also picked up Josh Hazlewood from the Champions, who has been one of the premier T20 seamers in the last 12 to 18 months. Their strengths, I think they've got actually a fairly well-balanced team. They've got a good amount of experience with a couple of champions. They've got a good bunch of overseas players, which means they've got a bit of depth if one of them gets injured or tired. There's plenty of games to play in a short amount of time. And spin bowling, they've got at least 10 overs a match to play with, I think, by my 11. The weakness is domestic depth isn't so great. They kind of do this thing where they try and almost pick a really good 15 or 14, 15 players to choose from, and then everyone else is not that great. In terms of their playing 11, Faf opening up. Mike Hessens said that Anuj Rawat is going to have the mantle there instead of Virat Kohli, who's going to be batting at 3, Maxwell 4, Mahapal Lomro at 5. One of my favourite cricketers, Dinesh Karthik, is at 6, Hasaranga 7, Harshal Patel at 8, Shahbaz Ahmed 9, Mohammad Siraj at 10, and Josh Hazelwood at 11. Do you reckon that's about right, gents?
I think you're in the ballpark. I think Hasaranga might bat higher, possibly even in the top 5 in some games, I think.
Okay.
But we don't know that for sure. Like, we'll have to see.
Kind of in that Sunil Narine type role, coming in and trying to hit boundaries.
Yeah, I think Hasaranga is not a good enough leg spinner to justify being batted at number, where did you have him? 8. 7 or 8. Yeah. I think he is a good leg spinner. I mean, that sounds like I'm really doing him down there. But I don't think they paid the money for him to use him just as a leg spinner is what I mean, really. Right. And he isn't Rashid Khan, who you could pay the money for and just use as a leg spinner.
He's come in at 4 or 5 for Sri Lanka before as well, hasn't he? So.
I think he'll be up there, and I think he'll be in a kind of finishery-ish, Ravi Jadeja type role. In fact, I'm not actually 100% sure he'll even bowl all of his 4 overs in every game, but we'll see how that goes. Like you say, they've got a lot of spin options, so I think they very much picked him as an all-rounder. But other than that, I think you're in the ballpark. Yeah. And
it's a varied attack, right? I think it's a little bit different between Siraj and Hazelwood, even though they're kind of right arm. Harshal Patel, obviously the purple cap holder from last year. Shahbaz Ahmed bowling left arm. You've got Hasaranga bowling, and then you've also got Maxwell's off spin. So I think that's quite a nice mix. I'm just not sure on their batting lineup. So if they're going to have Kohli at 3, Kohli is obviously brilliant. He's Kohli, but in T20 cricket, he's not been particularly effective against the spin bowling in the middle overs, right? The last kind of couple of years, his strike rate is one of the lowest. His percentage in terms of trying to actually hit those middle overs is really quite low. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see him either quickly start to open the batting and try and move him there, or they'll move him down to almost a finisher role where he can take down pace. That's how I think he should be utilised. But I'm not sure if big brain Mike Hessen is going to. Well,
I think that'll depend on Anuj Rawat. I don't know that much about him. Is he good? Or should we expect great things from him? But I think there's a scenario where he doesn't get any runs for 3 matches, and then Kohli's opening in the 4th match and does.
That's the kind of scenario I can envisage. But we'll see. Right there again, it's Kohli's got rid of all of his captaincy. He can focus on his game. He knows what his weakness is, but other teams know what his weakness is. But if he has a good IPL, then this team is going to go far, I think. Before my prediction, why should you support them? If you like whiskey, they are obviously named after the brand. If you have an unwavering love of Virat Kohli, then clearly this is your team. And if you like nearly teams that don't just quite get over the line, then RCP are your guys.
What were the other things you had down as weaknesses, by the way?
I said that their domestic depth actually isn't very good. So I think out of that side, if you get 1 or 2 injuries, you're starting to pick players who just aren't good enough to play at the IPL. It's kind of my main one. I thought actually they've got a pretty balanced lineup, but again, firepower maybe at the top isn't as good, and you're heavily reliant on Faf and Anuj to do that, and I think that's going to be quite difficult. I think in Hasaranga and Karthik, I think they've got some finishers, and Maxwell, depending on which one turns up, is great. And Lomro, I think, should have a breakout IPL this time around.
Okay. They picked only 20 players or 21 players or something like that, which is, in a COVID year, that could come back to bite them. They could be doing a big bash, and have like the coaches playing and stuff like that. Do you think there'll be a few English people listening? Do you think we'll see any David Willey maybe in the?
I think he's a good option, right? I think if as an overseas player, he's a double threat, right? As you were saying about Hasaranga, David Willey actually gives them power play overs, bowling left arm, and has been very effective for England and Yorkshire, and also has opened the batting and is actually a pretty devastating hitter when he gets going. So not a bad backup to play. And if there is an injury to someone like Hazelwood, actually he's not a bad replacement.
Great. Where do you think they're going to finish? Yeah,
I reckon they're going all the way.
I reckon they're going all the way.
I reckon.
Wow.
I reckon these boys are finalists this year.
Free of the shackles of Kohli's captaincy, though.
I think they're finalists. Looking at this side, I think compared to the other 11s that we've kind of been going through, there's not too many weak links, and the way in which the teams play, unless some other teams kind of completely change everyone else's approach, which the Punjab Kings might do with their kind of let's go out and hit as many sixes as we possibly can do. I think this team is set up better than they were last time.
I'm not sure they're better than Mumbai. That's the thing.
Well, they only have to beat them once.
They do. That's true. Mm-hmm. And I suppose in terms of the groups,
easier side. Easier side.
They got the easier side. Have they got?
Yeah, they have got the easier side.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. What about you two?
I think they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I do think they are a pretty good team. Yeah. I wouldn't say definitely, but
well, no, never say
definitely. What I am actually genuinely really interested in is probably the most interesting thing in this lineup is Hasaranga, because people keep telling me he's good, but if you actually look at his bowling numbers, they're not like incredible. Then you see him and you're like, that looks like good bowling, and then you remember it's in the UAE, so I'd probably be quite good. I think that'll be a really interesting one, particularly given where two of the three venues are probably not the greatest for spin in India. And I think they might end up relying on him a bit too much.
Yeah, quite possibly. But I think I like the experience in this team, and that they've bought people who've been there and won it. And actually, that's sometimes all like what you need in terms of getting people over the line. And that experience, I don't think can be underestimated. So we'll, I'm looking forward to watching these guys play.
I'm trying to think of a really obscure football reference that we can use, but nothing's springing to mind. Should we wrap up and come back?
Yes, we should. Who we've got next? We've got the Ahmedabad Bad Boys.
Ahmedabad Boys.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.